So today I have John Deere out, and the cool thing is they've got one of their older units, and this is approximately 10 years old. And you guys are able to see some of the differences between the new and the old as we go through these mowers. Now, these are 60-inch Pro Iron decks, and this is a 61 Velocity Plus deck. This is a 60-inch Hustler deck VX4. Some of the things that are about these mowers is this runs a 26-inch tire, as you can see here. It's a Grassmaster 26 12 by 12. And in the front is a 13-inch pneumatic tire, so you have to put air in that. As a homeowner, you'll like that. As a commercial guy, you will not. This runs a 13-inch front tire with a 24-inch 12 by 12 in the rear. It's a Carousel Turfmaster, as you can see here. On this newer Deere, we're running a twill tire, which is a 24 12 by 12. And then your front, now are these pneumatic or are they?
No, those are 7, so
they're hard.
Yes.
Right. So one of the things that Deere does, you'll notice that a lot of other people, do not have, is you can see the difference in the Scag, how it's flat, and then this is rounded. Now, whether that helps in certain scenarios or not, I'm not sure, but it is a different looking tire, as you can see across. Both of them are 13-inch front tires, and on the Scag and the X-Ride, you have suspension platforms, as you can see right here. So in this platform, you've got a complete ride system that has 5 adjustments through here. So you can see 1 through 5. You can pull this up and drop it down, and then you can pull it all the way back and harden. You can see it shift that shock. See, it shortens and longs the preload. Now, on the Scag, you have the same thing. It's a suspension platform, and it's in the front. I do prefer the front because it's so much simpler, but I do like the ride of the X-Ride because it has 26-inch rear tires. It's just a tad smoother, and I'll show you up and under here. You've also got a preload adjustment down at the bottom. Let me get you down in there. So you can see through there, you can twist that little knob at the bottom. I've got a short showing you how to do that. And this also has little bitty, like rubber bushings in the bottom of here, as you can see. So you get a really good ride on both of these mowers. On the Deere, like I said, you've got a suspension platform, and it's got risers under it. One of the things you'll notice from, like, if you're running an old Deere to a new Deere, is you're going to see how much higher the seat sits on that Deere. So this is pretty much this. Wouldn't you say it's the same mower, like pretty much frame?
Yes.
So
Yes.
You've pretty much got the same frame, deck, all the components, but you can see the height difference in those two. Both have suspension seats. The one's just an older setup and one's a newer setup. But you can see under this one, it has like a riser system. So it has a little bit longer suspension on it. And the seat is really nice bolstered. I mean, that seat is probably the best feeling out of these 3. And it has an adjustment up to 280 pounds, which is kind of standard across the board. They all go to about 280 pounds. One of the nice things about the Deere is it has a toolless belt removal. So like this piece here sets in these little cubbies, and you can just slide it around to the position you want, kind of like an X-Mark. I would say that X-Marks is a little bit easier to get on and off, but both of these are toolless. Whereas the Scag, you can see here, I've got this one off, but you can see here, you've got to twist these knobs to get that on and off. Now, as far as long term, I don't understand why you would want something like this, but I guess it's for like complete protection. And the Hustler is pretty much the same way. On these Hustlers, I pretty much take mine off and just leave them off. On the X-Ride, it is running a 34.5 Evo Kawasaki motor. pretty stout motor for its size, and it seems like it's decently fuel efficient, but I wouldn't say it's like majorly fuel efficient. This one runs the Cheetah runs a 38.5 Kohler, and this is running a 33 horse Vanguard with the oil guard system. Now, are these Vanguards with the oil guard 500?
Yes, 500
across the board? Like, don't matter what mower you're on?
That's right.
Okay. So if you buy this mower and you get the Vanguard with the oil guard, you can go 500 hours without changing your motor oil, which is about 400 hours more than what a normal mower is. Now, Kohler, if you buy their oil and their oil filter, they've got a Kohler special oil that's synthetic. They say you can go 300 hours on an oil change. I wouldn't recommend that, especially if you're cutting in places that's 90 to 100 degrees and you're cutting commercially. But if you guys have tried that and you've not had any trouble, I would love to hear back from you guys and, you know, kind of let us know at least across the board. Now, on the VX4 deck, you have the ability to adjust your front baffle just like you do on the Scag, and I'll show you guys that. So if you look down here, you've got this front lip that runs across through there, and you've got these bolts up and under here. You can see them right there. That will let you adjust that baffle, and there's been a guy on here that has been talking to me about this Scag, and I had a whole lot of deck blowout. So when I would cut with this Scag, it would blow out from under here with high lift blades, and it would shoot it up on the deck. The thing that I really disliked is there's nothing on this deck, so once it gets up on here, it either goes down through here and lands in front of your tire, or it just falls off and you've got a lot of grass that falls off the back. Now, I've lowered the baffle on this Velocity deck, and it changed how it cut completely. It's a whole lot better, and you do not get near the blowout. And as you can see here, you've got a couple of different notches. So when you look down here, you've got all these guards across through here. Now back behind here, I've got a short showing this, but you got 4 bolt holes, and then you've got each little bolt right here. You can see the little notch that lets you lower that baffle. Now where that's going to help is if you're, let's say you're in Kentucky and it's mowed cats and dogs for weeks, your grass is going to grow faster than you can cut it. There's no way you could cut like your grass in Kentucky and cut it down to 3 inches if it grows in a week. So a lot of guys are cutting it 4 to 5 inches. Well, the problem with that is your deck's so far from the ground that you've got a huge gap up here, which lets all that blow out. Well, when you lower that baffle, it changes how that baffling will let that grass, not one, it'll fly out easier because it keeps it in the deck, but then 2, you don't get all that blowout up on your deck like you did before. Now, you still get blowout in certain scenarios, especially like if you're cutting and one spot ain't as thick as the other, but it's just, to me, it's a really nice feature to have. And on the Pro deck, the Pro Iron Deck 7, you have the stamped steel deck. This is the only one in the industry, and the great thing about it is you do not have any welds on the interior, right? So this whole piece through here, like if you look at this deck or you look at any of them, anywhere there is a bend or anything like that, like here and all the inside, the chambers, everything is welded in there, whereas this one is stamped into one piece. So you don't have to worry about whether the welds are done right or anything like that. You're going to have a perfect deck every time. Now, as far as fuel capacity, what is this, like 11 and a half?
11.5 gallons.
Okay, 11 and a half. I'm not for sure what this is. I think it's around the same thing. I think both of these are all around the same thing. I'm sure someone's going to get on here and correct me. But in the commercial, it's like when you get up into a commercial mower, all of them are going to be anywhere from 11 to 13. I've even seen some that have 14, gallon tanks. but you should be able to pretty much cut all day with that system. Now, on the Scag and the Hustler, on the Hustler, you have 2 tanks. Well, all 3 of them, you have 2 tanks. And you have a flip switch. If you look right here, you have a flip switch. So you have a left and right tank. You'll switch between your tanks when one's getting low. And the Scag is the same way. So you can see right here on the Scag, you've got a flip switch here. Now, is Deere the same way, or does it auto feed? One tank.
There's not a dual. No, there's not dual fuel tanks on there.
Okay, so does the tank go below, or how is?
Yeah, the tank's over there, and it's actually on the side, kind of.
Okay, all right, excellent. I like that. So I much prefer a single tank. Do you feel like that it has any lopsided feeling?
I would say this, and I would say that I wish Deere would consider either doing a dual fuel tank,
Right.
like the Hustler or the Scag,
Right.
that drain at the same time,
Right.
or do like Exmark or Turf
Right.
Tiger does and put it here under
Right.
the seat.
That's my favorite.
That's just me. I think you're going to get guys that say the same thing. For some people, that doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, the one tank right there doesn't matter.
No.
That would be a change that I would like to see Deere make.
If you're someone who's mowing on flat, I don't think any of that's going to really make that much of a difference.
Totally agree.
In my mind, I'm going off of hillside stability and stuff like I know on my tanks. Like when I run that one or the Hustler, if I run one for 2 hours, I'll swap to the other tank and try to drain them both back and forth. I don't really drain one whole side. I've had some people tell me, oh, I love to just drain one side. That way I know how much longer I've got on the other and then drain the other. But me, I just sit there and flop that switch back and forth, trying to have, an even feeling on the mower the entire time. Yes. But my judgment, like I said, comes from major hills. And like I said, the video doesn't do any justice, but all I do is mow hillsides. And this is, I've had a lot of mowers that can slip down this hill and stuff. So to me, it's a deal that I'm always trying to have a center of gravity that is very planted to the ground. Now, when we look across these mowers, like I was saying before, the Deere and the X-Ride are almost identical seat height. And then the Cheetah and the older John Deere are almost identical seat height on them. I would say that the Deere is probably the lowest on the older one out of all of them. It's very, very close. But one of the things that the Scag does really well is they've put this whole suspension platform on there, but they've kept your center of gravity really, really low. Now, on some of these newer ones, they have the seat dial on them. Like some of the 24s, some of the 25s have them. It's an option that you can get, so you can get this same seat that is on here, not the color, but just like the dial, along with the suspension platform. A lot of people love it. And then others are like the center of gravity was totally off from what I was used to. And I think a lot of that's going to come down to personal preference and what you're mowing. Like if you're mowing flat and stuff, I would go all out and get the, suspension platform seat and everything. If you're mowing hillsides, the lower center of gravity, the easier it is and the more you feel stable. Now, on the Hustler X-Ride, there isn't a lockout pin, but the deck goes to 5.5. And the deck on this one is hard. It's a heavier set deck. Everything is heavy and set, so it tends to stay down. Now, when you do go fast and you hit a bump, it will jump out into the lockout position, but the Scag does it easier because it only goes to 5 inches, as you can see here on the deck. That's one of the downfalls to the Cheetah is it always jumps in the lockout position. And if you're someone that's in Kentucky in the spring and you're mowing with the Cheetah and you're trying to mow at 4.5 or 4 3/4, I would say that drives you nuts because it will jump out in that position. Anytime you hit a bump, it just, boom, locks out every time. Now, the Turf Tiger is totally different. It goes up to 6 1/4, so you're not worried about that near as much, which is one of the reasons if I was buying one of the two, I would buy the Turf Tiger. Cheetah's a great mower. Not saying nothing against Cheetah, but I myself would buy the Turf Tiger. Now, on the John Deere, you have a dial, and you can see it here. It goes from, so is it 1 inch?
1 inch.
And then up to 5.5. Now, there's no way for that deck to jump in the lockout position, is there?
Not with it, no.
See, that's a great thing. Like John Deere and Exmark, there's no way for that deck to, one, it can't drop down the scalp, and two, it can't jump in the lockout position. And here's what I would say, like if you're mowing, that's such a great thing, because if you're mowing, let's say you're mowing commercially and you're mowing a 4-acre lot and you've got long passes that you're making, on that Scag Cheetah, the moment it jumps out, you might not notice it, and you're going to go all the way down and then start to come back, and you're going to see that you missed that stripe, and you're going to have to go back over it again. So that's something to keep in mind. Like when you're looking at all these mower brands, there's certain features that really stand out. And one of the things that has stood out to me, like I said with the Cheetah, is it jumps into that lockout position. Now, if you're someone that's mowing shorter grass, it's never going to give you any issue. But if you're mowing above 4 inches, like I said, it will jump into that lock position so many times. Like on my property, it probably jumps in there 10 times before I get done mowing. And it will on the X-Ride as well, but it's not near as bad as it is on this one, because it has a 1/2 inch more that the deck has to jump, and the deck for some reason is harder to get up on the X-Ride as it is the Cheetah. Now on the Deere, another cool feature is it has the ability to raise the deck in the handlebar and kick your blade off. So let's say you're a older person, and that's what you was saying earlier. You had a lady.
Yes, I had an older woman customer who was 70 years old or so, and she was dead set on a 72-inch mower. So
Right.
she was looking at a Z960M, which has got the foot pedal.
Right,
well,
right.
The issue arose even when she had the seat all the way forward and she put all her weight on it, she couldn't raise the deck up.
Right.
So we moved her into an R, which has got a hydraulic deck lift, which is the button on the left handle here.
And it's pretty quick. I've used this mower before.
Yes.
I know a lot of you guys are like, man, I like simple stuff, and we're in the same boat. We like simple stuff too. But the thing about it is like when I first thought about this, I thought, man, it's going to be so slow that if I go over a rise or a crest, or I'm going to have to go around something that I want the deck raised, that I thought it would be, kind of like, meh. But this thing, I mean, it's like it jumps up and down. So it's very quick with how fast, and we'll showcase that again just so you guys can see how quick it is. And I wonder if that hydraulic system, is it faster the higher the RPM? Because it should be pushing because it's hydraulic here.
When you've got it throttled up, it moves the deck up and down quicker.
That's what I figured.
If you're at low throttle or low RPM, you'll notice the deck is slower.
Right, that's exactly what I figured. So when you look down here, another smart thing that Deere did is they didn't make that deck electronic. They made it hydraulic. So you've got plenty of pressure to lift that deck up and down however you want to do it. That is a very robust looking system that's in there. Another nice thing is you've got one feel port on your hydraulics. On the Deere, it runs a turf torque motor. So I'm going to show you guys. So if you look down here, this is running a turf torque. Do you know the numbers on this?
No, it's a tough torque is what it is.
Tough torque. Yeah, that's it. Tough torque.
Yep.
And on maintenance in these, I'm guessing it's a internal filter, or is it a cartridge?
If you look under here. Right here?
Right, that's what I figured.
Here. Yep, you just take that out, and there's individual filter in
Little
here.
cartridges in there.
Very easy to take out.
Right.
Super easy.
Now, on the Cheetah and the Hustler, it's running the ZT5400 Hydro Gear Transaxle. I will tell you, on the Hydro Gear Transaxle ZT5400, it takes a lot of horsepower to run these mowers. I would not recommend, and I see people all the time go and buy these Cheetahs or buy these, Hustlers, hyperdrives, all that stuff. If you're looking at one of these mowers that run these ZT5400s, do not buy a little motor version. I see people all the time on the forum, and they go and get one of these Cheetahs, and they're in Kentucky or somewhere that has a bunch of hills and stuff. If you get a Cheetah and it's got below 30 horse, it's going to bog that motor pretty heavy with those pumps and the setup. The same way with Hustler. You need a bigger motor on these decks and the hydros. I would say any motor that has that ZT5400 hydro, you're going to want a pretty high horsepower one, especially if you're on hillsides. Like I said, if you're on flat ground, a lot of that stuff isn't going to matter to you guys, but it is one of the things that I've noticed. These mowers, they need more horsepower to really, really shine on hills and stuff like that. Now, another thing that as far as servicing this motor, like I said, you're going to have a 500-hour oil change. So you've got 5 quarts that go in here, and they tell you right on top, and then you've got your checkpoint right here. So this has a bigger system. You're not going to be changing the oil as much. Now, to drain it, you'd find your drain plug. And does this have like a hose that goes up? That's one of the things I wanted to show them on the Cheetah. Is there a hose? How do you drain the oil? Is it just got a dipstick on it somewhere? So I see I see a drain plug over here.
Right here. So it's got a hose.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, see, it's actually got this little clamp right there that holds it.
All right.
But you got the hose right here.
So do you release that and it lets the oil out?
Yep.
All right. So have you seen how the Cheetah one is? This is one of the things I want to show, and I don't know if this is across the board, but I just changed the oil in both of these. And this by far has been, this motor specifically, when I say this, I'm talking about the Kohler Command. This has been the easiest oil change mower I've ever changed oil in my life. And I don't know if it's that way across the board, but so far I love this motor. I'm going to show you why. One, the oil filter's on top. So you're not worried about when it usually doesn't have a lot left in it. It drains after you set for a while. So when you take it off, you're not getting oil all over the side and everything because the motor lets it out because it's low. 2, it has this hose that you take out of here, and it's completely toolless. So you don't have to have any, I just knocked the cap off, but I'll show you guys. So you've got this cap right here that comes off, and then you just twist this yellow knob, and this will let all your oil drain out. Now, I know that probably scares a lot of you, but I'll tell you how it works long term if I keep the mower long enough. But as far as easy maintenance, this has been such an easy mower to maintenance. And then it just goes right up in that little port and holds it right there. On the X-Ride motor, it's the Evo. There's a stem down there that you've got to get to. It's not that hard of a deal, but you can see this right here. You drain that stem, and then the oil falls out the bottom, and your filter is on the side. But those, I really like having that, like that has that hose on it. On the Deere and the Scag, I really like that over how that one is on the bottom. And like I said, my other Hustler was the same exact way, so I think that's just how Hustler does it. Now Scag, I don't know if that's how they do it across the board, but is John Deere all of them like that? Like they put that?
All the newer ones are like, if you look at my old one,
right?
It's not like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's got a little screw.
That's what I figured.
Yes, it's right here.
Yep.
Right
okay.
there. And then the oil drains out through that little hole into
yep.
your.
So that's the same way that the Hustler is. It's got that, you undo the end and then it drains out the front. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just really like that hose because you can take that hose out, put it into a jug, and then you don't have to worry about trying to catch it or it getting on your mower pan or anything like that. It's just a really good way to set these mowers up. And like I said, these 2 mowers have a 10-year gap, and you can see that they have really tried to improve so many different things. Now, on your ergonomics of these mowers, so on the Hustler, you have a cup holder here. It's pretty much pointless. There's not much that fits it. That's one thing that I wish these companies would really work on, is trying to make cup holders, even if they make them big, try to put the ribs in there. And I've got this Swigsy that's on here. If you guys are looking to get one of these, I'll put a link in the bio, but I've got a short on showing this. You can just put stuff in there because it keeps the ribs, and this will not come out of your cup holder. But the Scag one's huge, and anything you put in it will fall out. It's very stubby and short. One of the things that I really like about Deere is they've put theirs in the floorboard, and it is dual size with the mug handle in there, so it's deeper, and that's kind of like how X-Marks is. Plus, I like it at my feet, just where it's sitting at. I think they utilize that whole area really well, whereas, these 2, there's nothing there, and there's so much real estate for them to do things. Like on this X-Ride, they could have put one here or here real easy, and had that where it wasn't that hard at all. Now, another thing, the X-Ride is just kind of a old school setup as far as your digital pad. Like you've got oil temp, manual, like if you've got some problem, and then you've got your hour meter on the side with the throttle and this here. Now, over here you've got a USB-A. There's 2 of them. These come on your newer ones like this. On the Scag, you have this Tiger Eye system, and you got a cup holder here, and then a US, or not a USB, but a cigarette port. And you could basically, I think the cigarette port would be better because you could put anything that you wanted into it. Like if you've got a certain type of charger, you can buy the puck to fit that, or you could even plug an air compressor or anything into that. Whereas the other one, you can't do that. Now, this Tiger Eye, another thing, like I was saying the other day, when you turn it on, you can see it, but you can't see it that well. They've did this blue and black scheme, and it shows your battery, and then like your oil temp and stuff, it doesn't show your fuel. You still have the manual fuel things here. I do like the idea of this, but I just wish it would have been on here too. Just, I don't know, just something in my mind tells me that I would like that. But if you have any any problems, this Tiger Eye will have a lit up spot, and then also your check engine light. This Kohler one, I don't like this throttle thing, and I've said it before. It's very, very hard to get a hold of, and it's very short. So I find myself, when I'm trying to slow my RPM, like around landscape or over rocks and things like that, I find myself finding it really hard to hit that throttle and it be smooth. Like I can't figure out how to do it smoothly. On the Deere and the Hustler, they have a longer knob. And I know everybody's got on here and said when you get a Cheetah with like the Kohler, or I mean the Kawasaki or the Briggs, you get the better stem on it. So that must be something with the companies. But I want to show you on this Deere. So if you get an EFI model on these new ones, you're getting this digital pad. And I want to show you how well you can see this thing. I noticed that immediately, like the readout on it, you can see it so well. Let me move this armrest up, but you can just read everything on it. It shows your fuel, battery, hours, things like that. To get this, you got a little red light and stuff like that to show you if you've got a problem. To get that, you have to get the EFI model. That's only on the EFIs, so that's another thing. Like this year, they come out with the EFIs on these mowers. And this is a 33 horse Briggs & Stratton, like I was saying. One of the things that I've noticed, and I've had so many mowers out here, the big carbureted mowers seem to hold their RPM at the forefront of thick grass better than a EFI. The EFI, what I've noticed, if you're in thick grass the whole time, it's not going to be that much difference. But let's say you're cutting shorter grass and then you hit thicker grass, it seems like all the EFI motors have this ramp up, like they've got to catch up to what you're doing, whereas the carbureted ones seem like they're just, I'll give you all the fuel you want, I don't care. And it seems like they have a smoother RPM range. Now, you will lose fuel on a carbureted versus a EFI system. Another nice thing that Scag does is they give you lights from the factory. So you've got these lights here. Now, they're not uber bright, and it's definitely not going to show you in the day, but I've got a video showcasing that too. But I'll just show them to you on. Mine are dirty and got grass stains on them, but there's one on each side. Deere doesn't have that yet. I'm sure you can get a light kit for it. I put those lights on top, just something that I had around and I stuck them on there. The Hustler does not give you lights on any of the models either. So that's one of the things that you would have to get extra if you was looking into these machines. Another thing on all of these mowers, the spindles are all greasable. So if you're looking for a mower that is not, that's like maintenance free, something like the X-Mark, then these are not one of those things. I prefer the greasable spindles and housings. And another thing that Deere does, it's first I've seen in the industry. And for a lot of people, they're going to be like, you know, why don't all of them do that? But look, it comes with a grease fitting on your spindle. Now, one of the things I will say is you're only going to grease your spindle probably once a year. So it's not like you're greasing it a lot. But when you go to grease them on these or Hustler, you're going to have to either, one, find a grease zerk that fits it because it has a screw, or you're going to have to decap it and grease it that way, which nothing wrong with that, but it's just really nice that Deere gives you that up front from the factory. Now, another thing that I'll show you guys, and this is going to be kind of a two-way street. So if you look at this Deere, you've got one straight, you see this here, you got one straight tire on the spindle, and then you've got one that sticks out. Now, if you're loading these on a truck, you're going to be able to get two on there, where like crisscrossed easier than you will this wide span deal. But also you're going to be able to get this into landscaping a ton easier because your deck, you see how far that deck is out? So it's going to give you the ability to get that into a nook, and we will showcase that. Now, another thing that as far as your offset deck and your spindle, the thing that I really like about the Scag and the Hustler is you can almost pick up your stripe anywhere you want. So if you're judging off your spindles in the front, you're going to be able to stick your spindles right, your tires right in your mark and pick it up anywhere. If you do that on a Deere, you can only use your left side, because if you use your right side if you're sitting on it, if you use this side here, you're going to shorten your cut. So that is one of the things that, you know, it's, like I said, it's great for landscaping and things like that, but I do prefer the span distance. But like I said, I'm not a landscaper. I'm not trying to get in tight places all the time. So to me, both have their pros and cons. Another thing, if you're looking at these Deere and you go from an M to an R, you're going to have a foot brake, parking brake. I really like that over one like this that has the handle. Now, I will say that handle is really nice. So you can take that handle and you can pull it back and use your foot brake. This is one of the only ones in the industry that has a foot brake. So you don't have to put it on. You can just literally pump the brakes anywhere and take your hands off. Hustler is in the handlebars. So you've got when you pull this off, it rolls off. And when you put it like that, it's on. On the Deere, you've got a foot brake. So you're not reaching for anything. That's really nice. You can just tap your foot on here to kick it on, and then hit the bottom to kick it off. Deere uses it's not a chain, but it's like a bolt system that holds their deck up, whereas Scag uses chain and Hustler uses a long bolt system on there. Now, as far as your handlebars, this has the adjustment, takes a 14-inch millimeter, and you can adjust these handlebars up and down, backwards and forwards. On the Scag, it's super simple. You've got this cog on the bottom here. You can undo that cog and then move your handlebar forwards and backwards. It takes a bolt to move the top up and down, which most people aren't going to be moving them up and down unless you're super long-legged. On the Deere, it's the same way. You've got bolts where you can shift it up and down. Does it have them? Yeah, you can move it side to side. The top one's a little wider than the bottom. Now, is there anything that you would say about this that...
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I would. Let's talk about real quick. Well, since I got the 965, which is new for Deere, which Ben already covered. So we have 4 new EFI models this year. We've got the 955 M&R,
right,
which has the 30.5 Kawasaki Evo
right,
EFI. We've got the 965M in the R, which has got the 33 horse Briggs Vanguard with oil guard.
right.
We've got the 975M, M only, no R trim level on that model. That's got the 37 horse Briggs Vanguard.
So you can get the 37 on there.
You can, and the 975M, and it's got the 37 Vanguard on it.
Okay.
Yes. No oil guard, just
Right.
37 Vanguard.
Right.
And then we have the Z985R, which has got oil guard, and the 40 horse Briggs Vanguard.
Right.
Now we talked about earlier, I wonder why they went with Kawasaki on the one and Vanguard's on the other, and I don't know the answer to that.
Right.
To be honest with you. I do know the Kawasaki Evo EFI is a very good engine.
Yes.
Obviously, the Briggs Vanguards have been around a while.
Yeah.
Oil guard is nothing new. That's been around for several years. It's actually exciting for Deere to get in the EFI game. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be good for us. And you already mentioned the new digital display.
Right.
And a lot of people like that.
Oh,
They
yeah.
like to be able to see all those different things on the display. I'm a simple kind of guy, so it's not that big of a deal to me.
Right.
It's not that big of a deal to me, but it is.
I never look at the Scag one.
Yeah.
Like I've been running this mower for a few months now, and the Tiger, I'm sure the same as this. Sure. It's kind of a novelty. It's cool to have, but it's not going to change your mower from whether you would buy it or not.
Right. And a lot of these things, and we just so you all know, we talked a lot
Yeah.
before we even started.
Yes.
We ought to start shooting this. And a lot of things comes down to preference. What feels good to Ben may not feel good to me.
Yep.
And we talked about the seats on mowers, and I always felt like an Exmark seat was built for me. Now this is a very comfortable seat, and Ben sat in it, and he would agree.
Yep.
I wish my mower, this 10-year-old Deere, had that seat on it. But I like sitting down. We talked about that. I like sitting down.
Center of gravity.
Yes. Absolutely. And I prefer. We didn't talk about this, but this machine's got wheels, and I ran wheels on machines for 6 or 7 years.
Right.
And at that time, I'd say I would never put a pneumatic tire back in a mower.
Really?
Until I went to the Carlisle AT101s, these bar tires, and I absolutely love these things.
There's a lot of people I've seen run those.
And just in full disclosure, for those of you that watch his channel and see his hill,
yeah,
and it looks steep, it is. But when you pull in his driveway, it doesn't do it justice.
Yeah.
This thing is steep.
It is.
It is very steep. And I would venture to say, because he likes to do the backup test on his hill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that these Carlisle 101s will handle it just fine.
Oh, I would say so.
They're very good at traction. And also they got it kind of like a concave design.
They do.
They make the ride more comfortable.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now people are going to say, look, wheels, when they're new, they're kind of stiff.
We talked about
They
that.
do loosen up and do.
Well, you can see some flex in that one. Like you can see some of the, like if you look at the bottom of it, you can kind of see how the spoke, like if you guys look, see how the spoke is shortening there. So you've got you can tell that it's flexing, and like I can take and pinch those, which is crazy. But like I said, it's going to be one of those things that, cost to what you're doing and whether it's worth it to you. But to me, they make the mower look like it's worth $1,000 more. Yeah, like it just looks.
They do look good.
So good.
They do look good. Now, Michelin will tell you that the tread lasts 3 times as long as a pneumatic tire.
Now, do you feel like that's true?
I will say this. I don't know that that's totally true, but having wheels on units for 2 and 3 years,
right,
and look at like this one and then one that's 3 years old, you can't tell a whole lot of difference. So
right.
I really don't think they're that far off there. I think that's pretty legit.
Well, and that's another thing. Like if you get a set of wheels, and let's say they last that long, here's what a lot of people don't think about. So let's say that you get a regular pneumatic tire and you're hitting concrete, you're hitting a lot of stuff all day long. When that tread wears down, if that truly works and that lasts 3 times longer, the shorter your tire gets, it's just like tire pressure. The more it changes the pitch of your deck front to back, and all that changes cut quality. So that's one of the things. If you're running an older mower and it's got really, really worn down tires, it's changed the pitch of your deck front to back from the time it was new to the time it was old. So if wheels last 3 times long and you're a commercial guy, you're going to keep that same cut quality that you had from the factory from day one until a lot longer than one of these mowers with regular pneumatic tires. But you can buy 4 sets for for the price of what you would pay for a wheel.
Yeah, if you're a commercial guy and you're running several mowers,
it's a tax write-off. Who cares?
Yeah, and flats are the last thing that you want.
Right.
And
right.
You don't have to worry about flats with that.
Very true.
I do with my 101s, and I mow a fair amount of grass, 18 acres a week or so.
Right.
But I still run these because I love them so much. Now, again, some people can say, well, I would never run a pneumatic or an air-filled tire again.
Right.
That's just personal preference. And, to me, an air-filled tire, like if I was worried about comfort, and as it says, Deeres are kind of rough riding.
Yes,
there's ways you can mitigate it. I own a 970R with a 72-inch,
right,
and it's got Z glides on it.
Right.
I actually took them off this one and put them on my 72-inch one, and the Z glides do help.
Right, they do.
But if you put an air-filled front tire on, that's going to help even more.
Yeah, and if you guys are wondering what a Z glide is, if you remember my hyperdrive, it had those front forks that flexed up and down. So there's a company called Z Glide. They used to make them for every mower. Like you could get them for Scag. I still wish you could because I'd buy a set for this today.
I had a set for those.
Yeah, they made them for Exmark. They made them for Scag. They made them for John Deere, Kubota. The only two mowers that they make them for today is John Deere and Kubota. And so if you own one of those two mowers, if you're a homeowner, like hands down, you'll, especially on big properties, you'll thank me if you put a set on there. My neighbor had a Z920 or a Z930, I can't remember, but they put it on their mower after we tested some, and it was a game changer for them. So if you guys are looking at a Deere and you get it and you're like, man, this thing rides rough, then you can order a set of Z Glides. And if you're in my every time I've tried them, I think that at least in the beginning, maybe later on, but I think the pneumatic tire rides better than the like the Tweel. Now, people have said the longer, it's just like anything else, it's got to get broke in. So maybe after 100 or 200 hours, the Tweel would feel just as good as the pneumatic. But like I said, just giving you guys as much info as possible. I hope that helps you guys. Was there anything else that I missed that you...
There's just, I think when we look at all these mowers, I'm a big proponent of just like little things on mowers that make sense to me and what don't make sense. I've never been a fan of black seat on a lawnmower.
Oh,
If you're in a hot climate,
right,
you know why. You know, say you're
right,
in July or August and you
right,
need a pair of shorts, you need to go get a drink.
Yep.
You come sit on that thing.
Yep, it's hot.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yep.
That's just one of the pet peeves. What I do like is, look, all these commercial mowers now, we all know they're not cheap.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
They're several $1,000s. If you're going to spend $12,000, $15,000, $17,000 on a mower, and I'm gonna beat on Deere for this, I'll beat on Scag for it. At least this Hustler, and especially an Exmark, they've got nice padded armrests. Now I understand not a lot of people use them when they mow. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to spend that much on a mower,
right,
then give me some nice.
Yeah.
And that's nitpicking.
Yeah,
but,
it is.
You know, in Deere, we sell them as an add-on.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Scag don't even have that on that
nice
model.
Yellow padded ones.
Right.
But my contention is, if I'm going to spend $15,000 more for a mower, they need to be on here.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah, they need to be on here.
I agree.
Really, these are just.
Yeah.
I just don't like them. They get hot too.
Another thing that we didn't talk about, and I know this is long-winded, but if you guys are looking at any of these mowers and you're wanting to have the best possible experience, you need to make sure that your dealer is willing to work with you. That is one of the key components to your success. Not as much for a homeowner, but more for a commercial guy. If you're just getting into this, if you buy a mower and the dealer's an hour or 2 hours away and you're down and they don't have a way to get you a loaner or things like that, it's going to really upset you super fast. Deere is known for having dealers everywhere. And I know Scag and Hustler are, have big dealerships certain places, but literally almost every town has a Deere guy or someone that's right there close to it. And they're known for their service department and things like that. So if you're looking into something like that, just go and ask the dealer, hey, can I test this mower, and get a feel for that dealership? Because if you have a horrible dealer, you're going to hate your mower. Like, there is no doubt in my mind. I know people that have bought them, and if you got a bad dealer, then you're going to have a bad experience at some point that makes you not like that mower, and you're going to get an opinion based off dealer and not how the mower performs.
Yeah, dealer support is absolutely, because I don't care which manufacturer you decide to go with. They all make, on the commercial side, they all make good mowers.
They do.
Yeah, they do. I mean, yes, some stripe better than others. Some are more comfortable than others.
Right.
Some have better warranties.
They do.
Warranty is the thing you need to look at. Like,
yeah.
On an R series, it's 3 years, 1,500 hours.
Okay.
On an M series, it's 3 years, 1,200 hours. Then you got like an X Mark Laser ZX series.
Yep, 3 years.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah,
now it is 5 years now.
Yes.
See, Hustler's 5 years, 3,000 hours on the hyperdrive. I don't know what the X-Ride is, but Scag is only 2 years for a commercial guy. So if you buy a Scag, you're only getting a 2-year warranty on the machine, and warranty's huge. Like, you're going to break a lot of stuff.
You just brought up a very good point. Actually, I forgot about it. So let's talk about warranty for a second.
Yeah.
So if you buy a Scag mower, if Ben goes and buys a Scag mower today,
Yeah.
Ben sells that Scag to Corey.
Yeah.
Warranty does not transfer.
Really?
It does not.
I did not know
Deere,
that.
it doesn't matter how many owners you go through. If I sell you this Deere, Ben, and you go to Campbellsville,
Didn't know that.
implement and say, hey, I've got this 965R, I got a problem with it. If it's under warranty, it doesn't matter how many owners there's been.
Okay.
It's covered. Scag is not like that.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Doesn't transfer.
Now, my hyperdrive, I didn't buy it from a dealer brand new. I bought it off of a guy, and I know, or at least the dealer I worked with, they still serviced mine. But I would check all that stuff. Everything's going to come down. Like I said, I get these mowers out for you guys to try to showcase this so that you can make the best possible decision for your homeowner or your business or anything that has to do. And so I hope this helps some of you guys. And if you got any questions in the next video, like I said, we're going to do a cut test and some other stuff. You can leave your comments below, and that way I can figure out what you need to see. Thank you guys for watching.